Let's talk aliens. So, we are not alone. We've never been alone. Oh, like my shirt, by the way. We've never been alone. For as far back as recorded history goes, we've had pictures of UFOs in the sky. We've had pictures of people with the astronaut looking helmet around their head, the bubble around their head. I mean, even Jesus and Mary Magdalene and all of the disciples and saintly type people were depicted with a type of halo glowing around their head. And a lot of those biblical pictures even have like a UFO in the background in the sky somewhere. We have newspaper articles from the 1800s. We have telegraph, I think that's what's called, telegraph messages and stuff that document UFO sightings going on way back in our history, right? This is not just a new phenomenon. And I can say that with 100% assurity because I've had multitudes of experiences myself. My whole life, I've had experiences. Many of my friends and family members and colleagues and clients have had experiences. Some were traumatic, some were frightening because it was not something they could comprehend, um, because we're told it's not real. And that's the real problem with all of this disinformation and these lies that we're being spoon fed. Because when we do encounter things like that, then we don't even know how to process it. And then we do process it and we try to tell somebody about it and they think you're freaking nuts. There's no credibility behind it until now. You know, we have all these whistleblowers coming forward. I mean, I literally saw on the National Security Agency's website, they have had a public alien vault that I went right into. I guess because they thought nobody was brave enough to do it, honestly. And I was naive about it. I figured it's public access. Why not? Got me in a lot of trouble, but whatever. Um, but they have a list of 57 known species. And I said this on a video I just did recently, even. And then there are like subcategory species underneath of each of those that, you know, like for example, let's take the gray aliens, right? Everybody knows what the grays look like. Hell, I think they might be on my shirt even. No, I don't have an alien face on this one. The one I had on last night did. Um, because I love weird science. I freaking love it. It's fascinating to me because I've always known that there's more out there than what they were telling us, right? Since I experienced it ever since I was a little girl, I knew. I knew it was crap when they said this stuff isn't real and blah, blah, blah. Neil deGrasse Tyson, with his smart aleck mouth, said, if they're really coming and visiting us, how come nobody took an ashtray from the UFO and brought it back to prove that they are real? Like, that's the most preposterous thing I've ever heard in my life. Because aliens aren't going to be smokers like we are. And I mean, especially if they don't even eat with their mouth. Hello. And everybody knows that smoking's bad for your health, blah, blah, blah. So why would an advanced civilization have ashtrays aboard their spaceship? I mean, it's just the stupidest thing ever for him to say. And so many people were just like, yeah, ha, 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 and they just laughed and went right along with it. But I mean, if you use your own brain, right, then you know that it's not logical. Anyway, I digress. Let's take the gray aliens, for example. There's not just one type of gray alien, there are multiple types of gray aliens. And so, um, actually, with the grays, they're in several different other species categories because they're more of like a biological minion, if you will, biological robot. They just complete their tasks. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. That's the little short dudes. That's what they do. Um, so what's another good example? Okay, the like reptilians, right? That's one that really nobody even wants to believe exists, and I promise you, I wish they didn't too. Um, but I know for a fact that they do. But there are like 5 different types of reptilians, and they come from 5 different areas, and one of them is even an earthly underground species. And what is that scientist's name that just passed away? The one that was in the wheelchair that couldn't speak, Stephen Hawking. He was a fabulous mind, first of all, but he did the math on the odds of probability of life on other planets and what it would look like, and he came up with that yes, it would be a bipedal race, a bipedal species that would populate the majority of the planets, the star systems that had life, but that it would be more of a intelligently evolved dinosaur type. Well, that's exactly what the reptilians are. I mean, if you look at them, that's exactly what they look like. They look like shorter versions of dinosaurs that are intelligent and like us, intelligent, except more warlike. The majority of them are more warlike, and more and superior to us in that as well. Um, they're also very strongly psychic, and they tend to want to get into your mind and see what's in your mind, in your brain computer, right? They want to get in your computer and see what you got in there and see what's going on with your thoughts and stuff. And so, like, they're brain miners, and it's just like in the vampire movies where they can lock into your eyes, and that's how they get you, which is interesting to me because, side note here, my dad and probably several of your parents or grandparents have said this phrase to you that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And I mean, that's essentially correct when you're eye to eye with a reptilian being. They're trying to like penetrate your soul, rape your soul, if you will, they want to get in there and see what's happening. And it takes a very strong mind to be able to block them and keep them out. I mean, and I'm telling you that was probably the hardest thing I have ever been challenged with in my entire life, was keeping this being, I want to say thing, but this being out of my mind. Truly the hardest thing I ever did. So there's 5 different types of reptilian, and so that's what we would call a subspecies category. And then underneath of each of the different labels for those reptilians, there are more subcategories of other types of beings that work underneath of them because they're more of the domineering, militarized leader type. And they have minions, if you will, underneath of them that do various different things, and scientists and so on and so forth. So, like praying mantis beings are real, according to this list of 57 species. I personally have never seen one of those, and I'm really kind of thankful for that. um, I think there may have been one in a room that I was in once, but they didn't come over close to me and interact. It was more of a viewing from a distance thing. And so we know for a fact that there's at least the 57 known species and subspecies and more subcategories under those. And then friend and foe or neutral labeled next to them and their star systems that they come from and so on and so forth. I mean, very informational, in-depth um, stuff. My pug's getting sketchy over here. Mr. Stanley. Mr. Stanman. Um, so what else was I going to say about that? Okay, so yeah, even Stephen Greer came out the other day with a video talking about how he knows with his inside information that there's 60 to 80 known species and that those have subspecies underneath of them. So maybe he has seen the same list I've seen. I don't know. But in all fairness, the 57 with all the subcategories would probably round up to around 80 or 90. So that sounds about accurate to me. But yeah, I've had a lot of experiences in my life, and I've talked about a few of them in different episodes that I've done. I've spoke about the reptilian that I encountered. I've spoke about the memory I had of being 16, almost 17, and I was driving home from making a car payment on my first car, my 72 Maverick, that I was making payments on to a lady I knew. And my boyfriend at the time and I were on my way back toward our homes, and bright light came over the car, and we saw it like swoop past a few times, almost like a spotlight type swoop, right? And then it like was straight over top of us, and we're looking out the window up at it, and the car stalled on the hill, and it was a 4-speed, but it like straight up stalled on the hill, and everything shut off. The radio didn't work or nothing either, which is all typical stuff. And then we had like the whole lost track of time thing, missing time, and by the time it was all over and I took him home and dropped him off and went to my house, it was quite late, and my mother was quite angry with me and grounded me from using her car again for a couple of weeks, which was a bummer because I was, trying to buy my own. But because she didn't believe me at all. And I guess, if I didn't know the things I know and my kid told me that, I probably wouldn't believe them either. I would think they were out horse assing around too. But I wasn't. I was a pretty good kid. I really didn't do anything. I didn't do anything bad. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I didn't, sneak around with boys. I didn't sneak out of the house at night. I didn't go places that I shouldn't be. Except one time when I was 10, I went to the movies and saw Mommy Dearest against my mother's wishes. But my friend was going. Whatever. Anyway, I was a pretty good kid. So, but in that instance, like I remembered obsessively very vivid details of being aboard a ship. I didn't know to call it a ship because I didn't really know a lot about UFOs and stuff like that. Like there was no books, there was no TV shows or anything like that to give me any kind of a indication about anything other than that TV show with the Coneheads, right? Is that what it was called? The Conehead, Meet the Coneheads, or something like that. Anyway, other than that, there really wasn't like a whole lot. The movie E.T. had came out, but nothing I had ever experienced looked like that either. And I guess maybe for a long time when I was a little kid, honestly, I didn't even understand that they came from somewhere else. I just thought that they were my people, basically. I just thought they were my people because they didn't look any different than humans. And I mean, they were my people, right? They were like my family. It wasn't like, I mean, there was a few characters that would be in the room that I would be in with them um, that didn't look human, but I didn't think anything of it. They were just friends of my people. They just seemed kind of normal in a weird sort of way. Um, and ironically, I always knew that I shouldn't talk about it too. That's a weird thing because I always knew that I wasn't supposed to tell people. And well, really, my dad was the only one I ever shared anything with too much because he was the main one that would listen to me when I was little. A lot of people don't listen to little kids, um, unfortunately. And he would tell me not to tell people because he was afraid they would take me away and do experiments with me and stuff. Um, but he used to tell me that about a lot of like my gifts and things too. But like I remembered specific details of being on a table, like an operating type table, getting tests done, having a needle put in my eye that was from this big wild machine that came down from the ceiling, and I literally couldn't move. I was like paralyzed. And then another thing went up the opposite from the eye, the opposite side, up my nostril, pretty much at the same time the thing was going in my eye, which was quite traumatic for me. And I really didn't like that deal at all. So I got like very mentally aggressive with them. I knew I couldn't physically move, so my mouth started running in my mind and telling them off and telling them my dad was going to kick their butt. And you know, they started getting really nervous and backing up away from me and letting me chill out and calm down. And I didn't get it. Like even though I understood in that moment that they felt threatened by me, they were worried about what I was going to do. I couldn't wrap my mind around why and what. But I know now because our thoughts are powerful. And if I would have flipped my switch from my dad's going to kick your butt to I'm going to kick your butt, then that whole paranormal thing when people think their house is haunted because shit starts flying around would have started happening. And that's like for real, y'all. That's for real stuff. That shit happens around me. Like for real. Sorry. Um, but so I had very vivid memories of that, and I would like obsessively, compulsively draw images of the leader dude with his cool staff that he carried around in his hand, and I would have nightmares over and over and over of the procedures they were doing to me because that was pretty traumatizing, and I didn't understand it, and that was about the time that my brother and my mom and I started seeing the black triangles around our house a lot, usually in threes. They would come in threes and we would see them. But all of us saw them. And it didn't matter where we lived. And we moved around a lot when we first moved to Indiana from Arkansas, we moved around quite a bit. Every 6 months to a year, we were moving until we found a place we could settle down, and we really liked the area. And so it didn't matter where we moved to, where we lived, we were always seeing the black triangles. And I think that means something, is my point. And I mean, they would follow us in our car. We would sometimes see these great big balls of light that look like the biggest supermoon you've ever seen coming through the woods at us or following us down the road, when you see it in the woods following us. And no way in the world that it was actually the moon, because it would eventually just vanish and we wouldn't see it again. I had some of those kind of instances as an adult with my own teenage children as well that witnessed such a thing, following us again down a dark country road where it was wooded on each side of the road, and it looked like a great big ball of white light. I mean, great big ball of light, low to the ground, following us through the woods, and we couldn't understand what we were looking at. We thought it had to be the moon somehow, or some kind of weird illusion that was happening because of atmospheric shit and all that. No, I mean, we just never could figure it out, and it vanished too. So what else? I've definitely seen the Pleiadian people. That's my people, that feel like family to me. That, well, I believe probably are family, even though I haven't seen them for a very long time now. I think I was 33 the last time I saw any of them, to my recollection anyway. But a lot of things in life started happening about that time too. That was when I really started leveling up in my soul growth and activating Kundalini, and really just delved deep into all kinds of things, Tai Chi, Ashtanga yoga, Qigong, many arts that practiced the prana, the breath, and posturing, and core strengthening, and things like that, because all of those things can be harnessed together to help sit you not only in your seat of power, but in your seat of being grounded, right? Firmly grounded with what you're doing, and connected to everything. Also, about the age of 33 is when my brother and I started practicing maneuvering the wind and clouds and electricity and different things like that, and had great results. Fascinating, exciting results. Like the vortex we created the one time, that was like the coolest thing ever. But my brother wanted to go jump in the middle of it, and I wouldn't let him, because he's a real daredevil that way. And I'm the more logical one. But that was pretty freaking exciting, to do such a thing. And even now, sometimes I surprise myself with things that I can do because of harnessing my power, my ability, my understanding of energy and how we can move it, right? Sometimes I do things without even really trying, so to speak. So I have to be very careful not to get too excited in a happy way and not get too excited in an angry way, because some crazy things may happen. Now, granted, it never is something that's harmful to anyone, but it can sure scare the crap out of us. That's definite. And so it's a very real balance that you have to be able to obtain to utilize this type of energy um, in a good way, you know, in a safe way, in a natural way, in a strong, powerful way, however you want to look at it. Um, so yeah, I even have surprised myself, and I guess I'm just going to tell you the story because it keeps coming to my mind, and that's why I keep pausing. So 2, 3 years ago, um, my brother was driving in the dark, and he doesn't see well in the dark, and went to cross the railroad tracks to take my cousin home, and thought he had turned on the road that was parallel with the tracks, but actually turned and went straight down the tracks themselves and got his vehicle stuck. And of course, my cousin was panicked, and she called me because I don't live that far away, and she's like, "You got to come and get us." Blah blah blah. This happened, and so I got in my vehicle and I went to get them. And my brother was insisting that I was going to help him, you know, like tie a rope to my bumper and his and pull him off the tracks. And I'm like, no, I don't want to tear up my car, yada, yada. Just get in. I'll take you back home. We'll figure something out. We'll call a wrecker or something. And he didn't want to leave his car there on the tracks. And we pretty much got in an argument. Long story short, we got in an argument about it because he wouldn't get off the railroad tracks and come with me so that I knew he was safe. He didn't want to leave his car there because he wanted to know it was safe. So we were in this dispute, and it got a little heated. And finally, I was like, "Fine, whatever. I'm just going to leave you here. I'm going to take her on back home because she's freaking out." And back to his house, and or my house actually. I think I ended up taking her to my house. Anyway, I'm creeping along. I called my other brother and I'm telling him what's going on, and I'm stressed out and torn over leaving my brother there. I didn't want to, so I'm just creeping along, barely going 5 miles an hour maybe. And all of a sudden that brother comes walking up beside the car and opens up the door and hops in and begins yelling at me again, getting mad, right? So I got mad back. And when I yelled at him, I laugh now, but it wasn't funny then. Um, when I started yelling back, I was so mad. I was so mad because he didn't want to just come with me without arguing, and I wanted to know he was safe. That all four of my tires lost pressure. I mean, you could feel it go and lower way down to the ground, and then the little gauge on my dash showed a picture of my car, and you know it'll show you tire pressure if you've got a tire that's low. It showed all four tires, and all of them had like 18 and 19 pounds of pressure in them a piece. It went from like almost 30 pounds of pressure down to 18 and 19. And so we had to drive the rest of the way back like a lowrider with not much tire pressure at all. And I'm like freaking out, thinking I'm gonna break the daggone car or something because I'm so mad. So immediately when it happened, my cousin who's in the back seat yelled at me and said, "What have you done?" Because she knew it was me. She knew I did it because I do this kind of crazy crap all the time. Um, but well, not all the time, but often enough that people know. Um, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I'm like trying to bring it back down and keep myself all shielded like I'm in a Faraday cage or something. And not affect the vehicle any further. Like, totally shielded myself from all of the electronic components about the vehicle altogether because I was afraid I was going to make the car just stop working. And so we're getting back to his house and figure it all out, and blah, blah. And I come home and check the tire pressure, and sure enough, 18, 19 pounds of pressure in all four tires. Had to air all the tires back up. But I mean, weird things like that happen all the time if you don't keep that in check. And even with being excited in a happy way, because this literally just happened, I don't even know, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm driving down the road with my kids in my Jag, um, my cool old Jag, and this really great song came on the radio that we hadn't heard, or I hadn't heard forever. An 80s kind of song. So I turned it up and I'm singing and I'm just having the greatest time. The kids are singing, they know the song, and we're just like having a blast, right? We're just excited with happiness, having a blast, singing this song from the top of our lungs. And all of a sudden the radio starts glitching. And my daughter says to me, she's 8. My daughter says to me, "Uh-oh, Mom, better rein it in. You're messing with the signal." And I'm like, I know, I know, I know. So I bring it down. I'm calm again. I'm singing again for a few minutes. And then the chorus came back on. So here I am, big and loud, full of excitement again. And this thing glitched twice and then totally switched stations to a whole different station that's like way far away from it. Way far away from it. And the thing to understand about my old Jag is that it's a 99. There's no digital presets and all that. This is like old school, you can hit a button that does a search, but other than that, you're like turning a dial, right? To change things. It's old school cool. I mean, it's like got the stuff in it for a car phone, right? It's that old. But it's a badass car. I love it. But anyway, it like totally changed the station. And we were just like, what crap? Because that was new. That was a new one on me. And so, I mean, you got to keep a lid on all that to some extent. Um, or wonky things happen like that. So, but these are things that I'm telling you all that you could do too, and I can teach you how to do it. You know, um, it makes you walk through life different when you understand who you are. You know. Oh, and well, okay. Look, speaking of that, I'm sure you've noticed my hand. I was pulling weeds today and had some really tough weeds that just weren't going to give. Ground's dry, hadn't rained for a while. So I was giving it literally my everything to jerk these weeds up out of there. Well, I've got this little brick wall around my flower bed that I was pulling the weeds out of. And, well, it's not real brick, it's artificial brick, but still, I mean, they're pretty secure in place. It ain't flimsy. And these weeds finally gave. And when they finally gave, I wasn't expecting it to be the angle that my hand went at. And instead of coming up, it actually kind of went down toward that little brick wall. And my pinky took the full force of my strength right into that little wall. Well, it broke the tip of my pinky, this area here, and it ripped my pinky nail off. It's hanging by its cuticle. And like instinctively, as soon as it happened, the first thing I did was grab my fingernail and start wiggling it upside down, up and down. And yeah, it was flopping. It was flopping. No blood, because that typically doesn't bleed. And I do know that for a fact because I've ripped 3 toenails off before riding a bicycle barefoot and fell into a baseball fence. Clipped my toenails, ripped them right off. They didn't bleed either. But so I did that. And I think it's probably one of the most excruciating pains I've ever felt in my life, honestly. It was so intense that I almost blacked out and I almost puked. And it still hurts pretty daggone bad. That's why I keep like trying to keep it up here, because the more you elevate it away, keep the blood from pumping to it, it doesn't hurt as much. But because I know who I am, I'm not going to sweat the small stuff, okay? Because I'm going to heal that bone back. And I'm going to seal that fingernail back down to the nail bed. Now, there's nothing in this bandage. It's just a bandage holding my nail down for now. Tomorrow, maybe, or the next day, I'll undo my bandage and I'm going to clip this fingernail back, even with my fingertip, just so it's not getting snagged. And then I'm going to create a poultice and I'm going to pack it and I'm going to wrap it back up and I'm going to leave it that way until it heals. And I know that it will work because this fingertip, it's all pretty and normal. I cut this fingertip off with a hatchet to there. True story. In 2007. Multiple witnesses. Chopping wood, kindling, for the wood stove. I saw my fingertip go plop off the edge of the kindling in mid-swing. And I already knew I was going to hit that finger and hurt it. So I also knew that if I slowed down, it would hurt it worse than if I just kept this momentum the same. And that's what I chose to do. And it was clean. Whoosh, took it off. And I went in the house. Now this sucker bled. Ooh, it bled. It bled a lot. But I wrapped some shop rags around it because I was actually out in the shop when it happened. I used to do reupholstery work out in my shop. And so I wrapped a shop rag around it, kept it elevated, went in the house, told my son to turn on the water, ran it under ice cold water for several minutes, wrapped it in a clean rag, told him what herbs to go and gather. And he did that, my teenage son. He was freaking out. And we were home alone, just me and him and maybe one other child. And so he went and gathered the herbs out of the yard and this is literally stuff that grows in your yard. I didn't plant it. God did. I told him what to go get. He went and got it, brought it back to me, put it in the mortar and pestle, crushed it up, packed the top of my nub with it, and had him help bandage it up. And I had this huge wad of gauze over top of it and left it there for 3 weeks. Didn't take it off, all the way down to here, bandaged up. Couldn't see the finger at all, which my husband at the time thought was a bad idea because he felt like I should be able to, or should be seeing, if there's any kind of blood poisoning happening, swelling, infection, any of those things, right? Because he was pessimistic about my mad alchemical herb skills. Understandable. But I'm like, no, I'm not going to take it off. I'm going to leave it on 3 weeks. For 3 weeks. And my brother, several nephews and nieces that would come over all the time, my own kids and friends, people I worked with, all of them were like, worried sick, right? Worried sick. So I'd do double time to shield them and their worry from affecting it, which was okay because I knew to do that too. And so I kept it covered for 3 weeks. And oh, and my son had went and collected my fingertip that I had chopped off from the shop, thinking we're going, pack it in ice and take it to the hospital and get it sewed back on and all that stuff like you see on TV, right? And I'm like, no, just throw it away. Which freaked him out even worse. And I'm like, no, just put it in the trash. And he's like, it's a part of you. I can't just throw it. It was a whole thing. But anyway, um, we finally got it thrown away. And I left my thing wrapped up for 3 weeks. Never took it off, never cleaned it, never changed it, nothing. Just kept it dry, kept it from getting wet. If I took a shower, I put a bunch of saran wrap or something over my head to keep all the water away from it. Kept it totally dry. 3 weeks later, I took a little X-Acto knife and started cutting my layers, my multitudes of layers away. And, several people sitting there at the table waiting to see because they just knew it was going to be awful and I was going to go straight to the emergency room or something. Uh, all those of little faith. But I took it off and my finger was grown back and my nail was already doing so good. It was about that long. And they were mind blown, absolutely mind blown. They're like, how did that happen? And I'm like, because we have that in our DNA. We have DNA memory to regrow things like that. But if you limit yourself to anything, then you're not going to achieve whatever, no matter how bad you want it. If you have limits on it, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it the way you want to anyway. You're just not. Well, I knew to be limitless because I was already teaching this to my children, my friends, and other people in my family, and walking that life, fully walking it, living it. And so I had 100% faith in it. I had already helped raise my child back from the dead by then, that was in the car wreck. So I had 100% faith in it. Zero doubt. That's what God told me. Anything can work, but it has to have zero doubt. That's the key. That's the key. That's the key. I have keys everywhere. Keys. That's the key. There's 3 keys really. That's the main one. That's the main one. But anyway, my finger grew back. So, I texted my brother this evening and I told him what I did to my finger. And he's like, oh my God, it makes me sick just thinking that. I'm like, I know, right? But if I can grow my finger back, surely I can heal this, right? He's like, that's right. And then he sent me some extra energy to help ease the pain in it. Felt much better. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you much. Because I needed it. I needed it. You can heal yourself, but you got to be able to get out of your mind and your body when there's pain to be able to do anything, right? Because that pain can take you over if you let it. And, sometimes you're not even really letting it. It just like earlier when I did this, I almost passed out. My eyes were like blacking out on me. It was that much pain. It was that intense. So, I needed a little help. We all do. We all do sometimes. And that's okay. That's beautiful, actually. Because if we could all just do it on our own, we wouldn't need anybody else. And maybe we would abuse that power. I think it's a really beautiful thing that we need each other for things like that. But and this that I can do has nothing to do with being abducted or having experiences with aliens in any way, shape, or form other than the ones that I called my people earlier. Them and their friends would take me to a room. And again, I never realized I was on a spaceship as a kid. It just seemed like a room. I was just in a room with other kids, and we were being taught things. We were being taught how to use telekinetics and telepathy and math. We were being taught math and science and all these different things. It was like little workshops for children where we're all just kind of sitting on the floor, hanging out, just, paired up or in little small groups, working and learning. And it was very cool. It was very calm. It was very comforting. None of us seemed alarmed by it. We were focused. We wanted to do well. I remember the particular, she felt female, even though she didn't look male or female, um, teacher type that would be in the room sort of monitoring us and watching us and occasionally, giving us instruction through telepathy. Um, she felt almost like she had this mothering nature to her. She was like you could feel the energy of her being very proud when you would do really well. So we really loved that. We really loved getting her applause, her approval, her excitement for us, her pride in it for us. It was a good feeling. It was good vibes. And none of it was ever scary, and none of it was ever, what's the word you would use? Like, it didn't cross any lines. It wasn't, that word is like totally gone. Anyway, it'll come to me. It just didn't feel overbearing or like they were um, disrespecting my space in any way, right? I mean, it wasn't. There were no advances or pressures or anything like that. Like we literally were learning at our own pace, and you know things that we were really good at, we were getting extra lessons for those things to hone them more. So yeah, I mean, it was just all fine. It was just like a school. It just seemed very normal to me. I did it so much, it just seemed normal, and there were other children there. So for me, it was normal. Uh, but anyway, so I've had a lot of experiences with the alien beings, and yes, I consider myself a star child or an earth angel or however you want to call that. And I feel like, I came here from a planet called Taygeta, in the Pleiadian star system, one of the seven sisters planets, and that I volunteered to be here for this time. Um, but it's not what gives me the ability to do what I do, because we can all do what I do. There are people that do what I do. Um, this is a God given thing. It's for all of us, you know, not just select few. It's for all of us. So we just got to get there. We just got to figure that out, right? Um, but anyway, back to the alien stuff. Some of my encounters were more interesting than others. Some are more detailed than others. For example, this one particular time around 2009, 2010, when I had seen like 13 different type of craft in that year. of '09 and 2010. Um, this one night, I just suddenly had that sensation of being dropped back into your bed that woke me up with a jolt. And I could feel like this weird electricity tingling all over my body. Like my whole body was just weirdly tingling, like residual electricity. And my first thought after acknowledging the tingle, the jolt, being awakened, and the tingle in that order, my very next thought was get up and look out the window. So that's what I did. I got up and I went straight to my window and I looked out. And sitting right outside my house, not even hovering at the rooftop, but lower than the rooftop, like almost eye level with me, was a chevron shaped UFO craft that was lit up with red lights around the perimeter of it. And as soon as I looked and could focus my eyes, it began to slowly drift away from the window. And I watched it and I kept rubbing my eyes like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. I'd never seen red lights and I'd never seen a chevron shape. And I didn't know what the hell just happened. You know, I didn't, I mean, I knew I must have been taken, but I don't know who they are, right? I don't know this craft. So who are they? And what just happened really is what I mean. So I'm watching it, it just drifts away. And then it just shot straight up and was gone. And still to this day, I don't recall what happened in the actual abduction portion of it. I just know that I must have been abducted because all of the things I experienced, the drop back in the bed, jolting awake, tingling all over the body like electrical, residual sensation, and then, get up and look out the window. That's all like classic textbook stuff for people that have gotten abducted, right? Which at the time, again, I didn't know because I didn't read stuff like that. I didn't watch those kind of, that type of information. We didn't have YouTube like we have now, and all of this bombardment of knowledge that you can glean into at any given moment of the day. That wasn't really accessible then, because really, I mean, you were still kind of considered privileged to have home computers and internet. This was the days of dial-up and beta testing. So, and MS-DOS, right? Floppy drives, that kind of thing. So it wasn't common knowledge to me, all of these classic textbook things. And so I still don't know to this day who the red chevron occupants are, or why they wanted me, or what they did with me, or any of that, But what I can tell you is that when I had first begun seeing all of the different craft in that area where I lived, I made several reports to the Mutual UFO Network, known as MUFON, and field investigators came to my house, and men in white vans were visiting my house but not speaking to me, just watching my house frequently. And very interesting, almost silent helicopters would fly over top of my house and shine spotlights around the perimeter of my house quite a bit. And, lots of weird things like that were going on. And then George Filer, who was one of the main people of MUFON, or founder of MUFON, had a newsletter that he would write articles about the most interesting cases of the year. And he featured me in his article as the top #1 most interesting um, group of sightings, because as it turns out, most people are lucky if they see one UFO in their whole life, and pretty much all of those are not going to see more than one craft, is their logic on it, or at least it was at that time. And here I was seeing 13 different types. And I'm not real sure why, even why that was happening, other than the fact that I was activating my Kundalini and I was practicing moving energy and really honing my skills and teaching my kids along the way and teaching my brother along the way and him teaching me. And, you know, there was just like huge spiritual growth happening then. And perhaps that's why I was attracting all of them. And I mean, I guess I just heard the voice say in my head that, which I think is spirit, uh, just so you don't think I'm crazy here, the voices in my head. It's spirit speaking to me, saying that they were all drawn and attracted to me for doing that work because of my mission that I've always known about my whole life. And I guess that makes sense, you know, even though that just like that just now came in. That would totally make sense because I have known my whole life that I'm here to finish Jesus's message and that we are amazing beings and we can do amazing things just like Jesus, you know. So I guess if I'm figuring that all out finally, really being able to utilize it and use it and move it, I reckon it would draw attention to them. So that makes sense to me. So there you go. Real time aha moment just happened. But yeah, so I was in George Filer's article called Filer's Files. And then I was part of the MUFON / Opus abduction phenomenon research study as an experiencer. And that whole thing was based around the Great Awakening, ironically. The whole thing. And, you know, I was already, by this point, already a part of MUFON. I was already a member of MUFON's forum. And for maybe a year or two, I mean, I knew people well. I knew them really well before I got involved, well, before this study was presented to us. But I'm not really sure how long I was at MUFON before that research study was offered to us, to experiencers that were in their forum. I would have to think about that. But anyway, I was part of the study, and I was the only one out of everybody in the forum, and there were thousands of us, tens of thousands of us, but probably about 500 that were real active. I was the only one that really spoke of the Great Awakening. So it was interesting to me that the whole study was based around a spiritual awakening that we would call the Great Awakening. But there, you know, we went through a physical, a psychoval, a huge questionnaire that kind of had trick questions and questions that were worded like 4 and 5 different ways. Kind of like when you go take the driver's test and they reword the same question to try to trip you up. Yeah, they did that in this test. Or quiz, whatever you call it. And it was a long and arduous process to be part of this research study, actually, because it went on. They conducted this for 16, 18 months, something like that, because they didn't just do experiencers. They also did non-experiencers, but that were believers, right? They believe that UFOs are real and aliens are real and that kind of thing. So they were included in the study as well, you know, double-blind study. They did it right. 2 main scientists with, you know, a handful underneath of them, helping them to do it all. I'm going to smoke a little piece of a cigarette. I hope you don't mind. Um, but yeah, it was really quite interesting to me in hindsight. And again, sometimes I'm so naive about things because I didn't even think twice about it when it first started. And it wasn't until like we finally got the conclusions in the mail of the study that it really hit me that this was focused around spiritual awakening. And I'm the only one that knows anything about or speaks anything about the spiritual awakening. You know, I just thought that was really weird. Sometimes it takes me a minute to figure it out, but I will eventually figure it out. But anyway, so I was part of that study, and that's a whole big thing. I've already done a couple of podcasts about that with Opus and MUFON and Lester Velez and Linda Moulton Howe, different ones like that. But George Norrie was involved in that too. He's a great man. I love him. If anybody doesn't know, he's the host of Coast to Coast AM radio and paranormal research. I really love that show, and I love that man. He's seriously dedicated to figuring out the truths about all of it, and he too is someone who knows that we are greater than we're being allowed to know. He was actually huge and doesn't even realize it. He was huge in my understanding of creating like collective groups to focus on defusing earthquakes and calming hurricanes and tsunamis and such, because he used to do that on his show, and all of us listeners could participate that wanted to, to test it out and see just how good we could do. I mean, even things like, when Texas was flooding, we focused on Texas and the rain, stopping and going away from Texas so that they didn't flood any further. So we did a lot of those kind of projects together. In the earlier years, 15, 20 years ago, when I first started really honing all of this. He was a huge component of my understanding. And someday I will meet him when my book ever gets finished being wrote. I will be on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. And I will be honored to do so. Anyway, so I participated in that study, and that opened a whole can of worms. Because then I had more men in black and more white vans with dark tinted out windows sitting outside my yard and freaking my kids out, following me when I would leave, taking off down the road if I charged at them to cuss them. One time I went after him with a shotgun, which I guess was not a smart thing to do, because I'm really glad and lucky they didn't just take me out or whatever. But I guess they weren't there to hurt me. Maybe they were just there to scare me, or maybe even protect me. Who knows? I mean, I don't really know what their motive was. But I mean, my phone was tapped. My house was ransacked. Then my house burned down. Then we lived in a camper. Then the camper was broke into and ransacked. Each time something was ransacked, motherboards were stolen and tampered with, and like that was a whole big thing. That was a whole big thing. And that lasted about 3.5, 4 years. I'm really glad that's behind me. And I mean, people that know me today that didn't know me then, they find those stories hard to believe. They think they're just that. They're just a story. It's not real and it didn't happen. But I mean, I had a family that witnessed this, you know. My family witnessed this. My husband at the time witnessed it. My five now adult children witnessed this with me. My brother witnessed this with me. Uh, two or three close friends witnessed this. You know, matter of fact, one of my very good friends was in the DOD, and he was the one that I would call when a lot of this would go on, and I would have him to come and witness these things. So um, it wasn't just me. It's not just my stories, you know. I mean, it's my stories because they happened to me personally, but they're not just stories. This is true life stuff. And a lot of the things that I speak on actually are documented somewhere, you know, whether it's a hospital or through a three-letter alphabet agency or local authorities or, you know, friends and family that documented things to keep copies to, you know, just in case. Like if something did happen to me, there was people that have backup stuff. Because you know, being who I am and being through what all I've experienced, um, has made me a very curious mind and a hardcore researcher. And I'm pretty brave about stuff like that. So I've researched some pretty deep, dark rabbit holes, and we'll save all that for another podcast. um, but I did have a lot of things, you know, evidential, hard copy things. And I learned the hard way then that you need backup on top of backup, and not just downloaded information, but hard copy information and secure, safe locations to keep things in. And I know this all sounds like stuff that you would see on a TV program or a movie or something, but like this was my real life. This is stuff I've experienced in my real life and had to deal with. And I mean, even that goes back to like in childhood, I was sort of taught that almost James Bond type of role and lifestyle just because of who our dad is. Because he was a mystery man. He was living a double life. Ironically, he was a Gemini. But he lived a double life. You know, he had something else going on that definitely was very important, um, whatever that means. And, you know, we were sort of trained almost behind the scenes to not ask questions, not look people in the eye, not to be able to recognize certain people that may be around our dad, and, you know, not to ever tell anything or open our mouth about nothing. So, I mean, there was a lot of weird stuff that we experienced as kids from my dad alone, that kind of taught me how to have that mindset if I needed it. Um, Sort of like boot camp, I guess. But I mean, this stuff really happened, and there is documentation to prove it. All of it. There's documentation to prove all of it. Um, and you know, a lot of people they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't tell these things," blah blah blah, because either A, they're not going to believe you and they think you're crazy, or B, maybe you're putting yourself in danger, or others, yada yada. And no, I don't feel like either is the case at this time, or I wouldn't feel like um, God's telling me that it's time to open my mouth, if that makes sense. And I know how to walk in that faith. You know, I walk in that faith, so there's no negativity attached to this whatsoever. It's just me talking to you and telling you what I know and my little piece of the puzzle, and no harm, no foul. You know, any direction, no harm, no foul. I'm secure in my stories and I'm secure in myself, and I don't need to try to convince anybody of anything. I'm not out to cause trouble, and I'm not out to dupe anyone and lie. Um, so I know my intentions are pure, so I'm not worried about anything else. I'm not worried about any of it. You look like you're about to fall off the edge of the couch. Be careful, Stanley. Be careful. If you all could see him, I wonder if I can switch my camera real quick and let you see what he looks like. I don't think I can while I'm recording. Or if I can, I don't know how. Anyway, he's too funny, the way he's hanging on the edge of the couch. Let me think. Is there anything else that I really want to cover? I feel like I've been talking forever. Am I boring you? Does this bore you? If it does, I'm sorry. Please tell me in the comments, and I won't do this kind of video anymore. Because I'm just trying to share some of, who I am, and because I feel like you need to trust me. You need to know me better in order to trust me, in order to allow your limits to be removed so you can become who you're supposed to be, you know? But if this ain't the right way to do it, hey, tell me in the comments, because I got tons of things to talk about. And I have tons of shows coming up soon too, guys. Lots of collaboration with people who are going to share their story, and others that are going to do Deja Brew Coffee Talk with me. I'm going to start doing Wake Up with Kelly Coffee Talks as well, and I think I might do those live. So again, put that in the comments if you want them to go live so that you can interact with me for the morning coffee show. Because I love my coffee. Look at all my coffee cups. I love, love, love coffee. But I don't love it when it gets cold. It's like really cold now. That's not good. Yeah, put that in the comments if you want to participate and do lives with me, and tell me like what day or time would be best for doing lives too, because I really never know. I really never know how to do that kind of stuff. I need some guidance there. I need some input from the viewers that want to participate. Let me know in the comments. What else is going on? I'm going to start doing weekly tarot and gemstone readings. And maybe one collective a week, or bi-weekly or monthly. I haven't decided yet. Collective stuff can change literally from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute. So maybe bi-weekly. Maybe I'll do them bi-weekly. I don't know. And again, I'm welcome to ideas and input. If you have some ideas of topics that you'd like to hear more about, let me know. If you want to reach out to me and tell me your story, or be on the show and tell your story, email me, earthsonglovecraft@earthsonglovecraft.com, and we'll set something up. I use Zoom and Google Meet, so be sure to put in the email what your preference is there between those two, and also what day or time is best for you. And personally, for me, anything after 10 p.m. is perfect, so I can get the babies to bed and I don't have to worry about that. No interruptions. Especially since school's getting ready to start again because we homeschool. Come on, Stanley, do you want over here? Come on. Is that what it is? You're afraid to jump that far? Come on, baby. Come here. Come around here. Come around here. Come on. Come on. He's scared. Come on. Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. It's okay. It's okay. What else? What else? Yeah. Collaborations coming up, coffee talk, maybe live shows. Um, and a friend of mine, a collaborator of mine, she also wants to do live shows. Those will likely be on the weekend, so that she has the time to dedicate to those. And those we may do in the middle of the day. I don't know. We might get crazy, do something like that. But yeah, she definitely wants to do live shows with me. And my friend Christina, that you may or may not have already seen our first podcast together. I think she did really great. She's stoked to do more. She's got tons of things that she needs to get out of her head and, through her throat chakra. And so we're going to be doing shows together. And oh, my friend, oh my God, he's going to kill me. I just forgot his last name. My friend Brian, this paranormal investigator, researcher that I had on, gosh, maybe 5, 6 months ago, did a couple of shows with him. We're going to do a show coming up in August. I think the 17th is when we do a show. What is his name? Bowman? Bowen? Brian. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm sorry I forgot your name. Please forgive me. I'm going to find out right now because I hate it when I do stuff like that. I just feel like that's rude. Brian Bowden. I was close. I was close. So anyway, um, he'll be on the show, and hopefully we're going to be doing more shows together than just the one. I love talking to him. He's a wealth of information, and I just love having those kind of conversations with somebody else that's knowledgeable in the paranormal research and the UFO research. Similar to me. Now, granted, he knows more than I do, I'm sure, because he's been in it deeper than me. But I was a field investigator for MUFON for a minute, and lifelong experiencer, so I've got that. But I just love talking to him. I mean, like, he's got a fascinating mind. We're gonna pick his brain. Um, and then who else? My friend Amanda, my friend Christina, perhaps my friend and colleague Garrett Cobb. Oh, I have some new ones coming up too. My friend Angie, my friend Jennifer, and my friend Tarek. Dog hair. I love him, but I'm allergic. And the funny thing is, I give him the allergy pills because he's allergic to things too. And he has really bad breathing problems. So he gets the allergy pill instead of me. Because that's who I am. I give my allergy pill to my dog instead. Anyway, yeah, lots of fun things coming up in August. Lots of exciting things. And also, if you're still with me and you're still listening and you would like to participate in helping me to build all of this, I would love some thoughts and input on how to bring people into that forum that I've created on my website. where we can speak freely and we don't have to worry about being careful what we say, because there's so many more things that I could be telling that I can't be telling because of where I'm telling it at. If you feel me. You feel me? So I would really love to um, find a way to, entice people to want to come to the forum. It's totally free. It's totally free and no censorship and all of that, right? I mean, like absolutely no censorship. I would be the censorship, right? And that's not happening because I'm all about free speech, even if I don't like your opinion. Anyway, give me some thoughts. Give me some ideas. What would you like to hear us talk about? What kind of topics? What things do you want to know more about? Um, I am offering some lesson plans and some courses on the website if you're interested in checking that stuff out. It's some pretty, deep dive, in depth stuff that comes complete with a book, like a PDF of instructions, an instruction manual to use. Stuff that the Knights Templar knew, and the Cathars, the Rosicrucianers, and Freemasons, and stuff, like things they know, and then some. And then some. I'm serious. So, if you're well versed in your handle on spirituality, you've done your shadow work, you're sitting firmly in your seat and grounded, and you have some sense of good visualization and energy work, go sign up for that class, that course. But if you don't, then don't waste your money on it, because you wouldn't be able to. You would get frustrated, and I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to be frustrated, because that would make you fall back rather than move forward in your growth and your learning and your understanding. So um, we don't want that. There are other things you could choose to take there on the website that would help you to hone those things and be better prepared for that particular course. And all of those uh, other steps, those other classes, are by donation, so that everybody can afford them and nobody gets left out or left behind. Because, I mean, literally, my motto is that nobody gets left behind. Nobody. Nobody slips through a crack. We will put you where you need to be to start with, so that you can build on a firm, solid foundation of spiritual enlightenment and growth. Okay? I also offer healing, and I also offer personal readings and uh, personal guidance, personal counseling, couple counseling, um, art and music therapies, energy healing, herbal counseling, um, for alternative health. Several things. There's several things there. I have a cool little thing you can do where you find out what your number is, and not like numerology numbers, but the numbers that are in the cards. Um, that was a side course that I took when I learned some stuff about numerology. I really like the cards, so destiny numbers is what it's called, I think. Destiny cards. Cards of Destiny. That's it. It's called Cards of Destiny. And it's literally like a deck of playing cards that you would use to determine, like, I'm a six of clubs, right? That's my destiny number in these cards, and it means a whole host of things. It's pretty cool, and it's, I think by donation. If not, it's like really cheap, because it's just a way. It's just a tool for you to help better understand your makeup. Your own personal makeup. So yeah, go check out the website if you're interested in any of those things. I also make like blessed jewelry and protection jewelry that has a quince seed in the center of it. If anybody's interested in that, I have the bookmarks for sale. Where are my bookmarks? They're around here somewhere. I have really beautiful bookmarks for sale for like $3. That's got my intent mantra on the back of it. You can pre-order my books that I'm writing if you want. They're in the store there also. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff at the website, that I would really love to have more people coming and looking at and seeing really what I can do. And I'm just kind of talking out loud, I guess, right now. But I don't know if my website is complicated to people to navigate or what's going on there. But I'm not a web designer. So, I mean, I did the best I could, and it makes my brain hurt so bad I just can't focus any more energy on changing it around. I just can't. So, if it is complicated, please let me know and I'll help you to navigate better. I'll send you the link to whatever you're looking for if I have to, because I don't know how to do this any better than what it is. That's as simple as that. That's the simplest way I put it. But yeah, I guess that's it. I'm gonna leave it there because now I feel like I am rambling and I'm getting tired, so I probably am. I have a new show coming out tomorrow. All right, Deja Brew Coffee Talk show. So you can look forward to that if you want. And I've got some cool whistleblower stuff that's going to be coming out pretty soon too. So we'll be doing that. All right. Until next time, be well and be blessed in love and light. Peace.